How's it going, everyone? My name is DrapPep. Welcome back to another episode of this series. I want to talk about how my aunt met someone with the last name Disney. And it was really exciting for her because, how often do you run into a family member related to Walt Disney? So, of course, she had her doubts. She said, "Nah, there's no way you're Disney. I gotta see ID." So they pulled out the ID, and sure enough, the last name was Disney. Now, of course, they could have easily legally changed their last name, but that's a lot of paperwork. Trust me, it's a lot. So it only leads to as evidence, as proof that they are, in fact, who they say they are. Now, my aunt, she got really excited because, how often, right? You meet someone related to a famous family. But to them, it wasn't that big of a deal. They're even like, all right, well, it's not that big of a deal. Calm down. It's just my last name. But that's kind of relatable. I can relate to that. You see, my last name is Papard. And if you ever seen The A Team or Breakfast at Tiffany's, you would know the actor George Papard. And a lot of people who hear my last name, Papard, who are fans of A Team or Breakfast at Tiffany's, they would always ask me, "Are you by any chance related to George Papard?" Now, there's two things I can do at this moment. I can either tell them the truth and say, "No, not really. It was he was adopted into the family and he loved the last name, that he changed his last name to be, with the family. So technically he's not really a Papard, but he still considers himself as part of the family." Or I can just go with option two and mess with them and just be like, "Yeah, actually, I am. And if you want, we have so much merch. It's surprising that there is actually Papard merchandise out there. Not a lot. Not a lot to be excited about. It's not like I can go in somewhere and be like, "I'm here for the royalties for the Papard name." By the way, if you don't know, DrapPep, the username that I use, is just Papard spelled backwards. A lot of people never catch on to that, and when I show that to them, there's only the briefest of realization. When I go, "Oh yeah, that's my name spelled backwards," and they go, "Oh," and that's about it. That's the extent of that excitement of realizing it's just Papard spelled backwards. So one of the things, and I have it, I might as well make a video about this because I think it's kind of cool. There's an actual book about the Papard family of the heritage, and it is a very boring, but it is really, that is a dry read. That is like reading a history book without any context. It is just wow. But the Papard family has a little bit of history to it outside of George Papard. And one of the things that I've looked up was something known as the Papard Castle in Ireland, because that's, where my family's from. We're from Ireland. Technically, I think we were French, but then the name got turned a little bit once they got to Ireland, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be, I haven't read that book all the way through. We came to America during the plague. It was a awful. I think like nothing was growing in Ireland, and so a lot of uh, refugees had to come to America. I think that we came in through New York, but bottom line, what I'm trying to say is, despite not really being connected to George Papard, there's still some, you know, fascinating facts about the Papard family connected to history. And when I looked up the Papard Castle, because a family member told me about the Papard Castle, and I was like, "Nuh-uh, I gotta see this for myself. A castle Papard. I gotta see this." So I googled it. It's not a castle. There's a tower that shows up if you look up on Google, but it's not. It's more like a mansion called the Papard Castle, and you can take tours through it. I don't know what's in that tour. I don't know what's connected to it, but I wouldn't mind going on to that tour just to see. And of course, there's like a lot of I like to think of them as myths because I hear a lot of stories from the family about the Papard family, and some of it is kind of far fetched, even to me. Uh, One of the things I've heard is that the Papards used to uh, sail with Vikings all over the place. I've heard one where the Papards are connected to the Peppered farms, like the peppers, and we were sent there as ambassadors to overlook the pepper farms. I've heard one where it was supposed to be how we were great explorers. There's a couple where I guess the majority of us somehow miraculously have been a part of every single landmark that was made in America. Not by the same person, by the way, spread out among other people. So, like, within my family, there's a lot of mythology, there's a lot of myths. And I always, I have a family member who's trying to gather all of this information, but not like, hearsay, but like actual evidence of what was done so that they can publish a more fuller book. Because even though there is a Papard book, which I don't even know if this is like properly published, like it's a real book, but like I don't think I think this was like more for the family than it was for the general public is what I'm thinking, and they want to make a more published book for the public. And the amount of conspiracies even connected to my family, there's a lot of conspiracies. I've heard some doozies about my family being connected to like operations, and they're like, you can't tell anyone, so keep it quiet. I'm like, what are you talking about? Our family's connected to the UFOs. I'm like, that, what are you talking about? Of course, I wouldn't be sitting here right now talking about conspiracies like this if it was true. So, like, clearly, I don't believe in it. I'm afraid though that someone's gonna be listening to this and be like, we found one. we found someone that's connected to all of it. We got to get him. We're gonna interrogate him. We have to learn all his secrets. I'll tell you, I don't care. I have a little bit of time left in the video. I'll tell you some of the conspiracies I've heard. So one of them is my grandfather, who served in the war, said that there was some kind of creature that went to a barn, and the soldiers surrounded the barn to get the creature out of there, and it was like some kind of humanoid, and they set the barn on fire to try to scare it out, and they saw a figure. They couldn't quite recognize what it was, but it was making some like beastly sounds. It looked like a person, but it was like all changed. And my grandfather told us about that, and he used to warn us, if there's ever a UFO that comes to Earth, do not go near it, because it's going to be like bleeding radiation. It's going to be waterfalls of it, mountains of it, right? You do not want to go near any of that because of all of the radiation. And he didn't fully explain to us why we had to stay away. He was just, if you see a UFO, don't go near it. I'm like, okay. So if you want to believe that those were true, I have so many more. Let me know in the comments if you want me to disclose more of the family conspiracies that my family's connected to. And I will. I'll tell you all of them. I don't care. I don't think the government's going to be like, he knows. Like, I don't think the government's going to be breaking down my door and be like, he knows too much. Get him. He can't reveal the part secrets. But I bottom line, I know what it feels like to have this name that I'm connected with, Papard, and hearing people get so excited about hearing it. Either they know the conspiracies or they know George Papard or something. Like, you're a Papard? Like, from, XYZ? and it I can get it now. Like the Disney person, right? The person who is connected to the Disney family, they're not them. They're not connected to those things. I'm not George Papard. I'm not connected to George Papard. I'm not connected to the conspiracies connected to my family or the Papard Castle or anything really. It's just a name that I have. And I get it. Like I deal with that not every day, but at least once a year I get at least 4 or 5 people who recognize my last name. And you would think that's not a lot, but trust me, if you've lived your entire life, 34 years of every year, there's like 4 or 5 people who recognize your last name, and it gets to you eventually. But that's gonna be it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining it.